Last year in August, when Monster Hunter Wilds was playable at Gamescom, Rurikhan, who I think is a great member of our Monster Hunter community, was able to interview the dev team. There's a particular section I want to highlight from the interview where Rurikhan asks about hunting simulation and how it will be balanced going forward. I'll let this section play in full.
Monster Hunter traditionally strikes a balance between action combat and hunting simulation. Things like eating food, sharpening your weapon, hot and cold drinks. How are you balancing these two aspects in Monster Hunter Wilds?
I
think it's important to have realistic and immersive hunter simulation aspects of the game, like the ones you mentioned, like eating food, sharpening your weapon, dealing with temperature changes in the environment. And these are all included in one way or another in Monster Hunter Wilds. But I think our approach since Monster Hunter World has been, don't let those kind of get in the way of the main hunting action by becoming too much of a kind of admin task you have to manage at all times, especially with things like reducing the amount of items you need to stock up on and have on you at all times. They're a sort of a finite resource you have to either be purchasing or crafting, because it just becomes inventory management at that point. So as with some aspects in Monster Hunter World, where we changed it from an item to another sort of mechanic that you would use to deal with things, aspects like temperature and hot and cold and that kind of thing, we've got, maybe a different approach this time around that will hopefully reduce that overhead of admin and let you just focus on the hunting action itself a little bit more.
To many fans, the answer to that question was a red flag to them in regards to the direction of the series, because it sounds like a philosophy of simplification. It sounds like they want to streamline systems in Monster Hunter to make sure the player gets into combat faster. In my Monster Hunter 2 video, I discussed this topic in length, comparing many systems from the 2nd gen games like Monster Hunter 2 to the 5th gen games like Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise. Today, I consider that video very outdated, but at the time, this topic was still very fresh. There was, and there still is, concern in the community that Monster Hunter is shifting its core mechanics in a direction from hunting simulation into simple arena boss rush game. To a lot of people, the old systems in Monster Hunter were everything that made Monster Hunter. These same people believe that the series is moving away from Monster Hunter and becoming Monster Fighter. This shift felt the strongest in the 5th generation. If you compare Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate into Monster Hunter World and then into Monster Hunter Rise, series veterans who've played them all are pretty quick to point at things like the new camp system and how the player hunter no longer needs to prepare before they embark on a quest. You can do all your preparation after you've embarked on the quest, and now the player has the opportunity to restock their entire loadout at any given time on the quest. This is a mechanic that is also going to return in Monster Hunter Wilds. Is this evidence that Monster Hunter is losing its DNA? Is this evidence that Monster Hunter is becoming Monster Fighter? Now, I'm not going to bother convincing you that this mechanic in particular is fine, or any contested mechanic for that matter. I think I've talked about it on length enough. The point of this video is to try and illustrate why I personally trust the developers and the changes that they're making to these games. Why I have faith in the team at Capcom. I do believe earnestly that they are striving to innovate the Monster Hunter experience, not to simplify it and not to make Monster Fighter. Furthermore, I believe that Monster Hunter actually is just too complicated. This game is too complex. It's plagued with constant, busy admin work. I believe Tokuda and his Monster Hunter Wilds game that he's directing is striving to reinvent something that is, in fact, outdated. Monster Hunter is not flawless. Tokuda is right. It needs tinkering. There's a portion of the player base that recognizes that Monster Hunter is changing. That portion is quite small. Even smaller is a tiny portion of people that are aggressively protesting these, as they call them, disgusting changes. Yes, a small minority of people festering and rotting in their own doom and gloom, holding on to any scrap of evidence that there is in fact observable change to their precious Monster Hunter formula. These players see themselves as enlightened, for they know the truth. When they look at the other people that don't even realize these changes are happening. The enlightened call them frogs. They're frogs that were deceived by the people of Capcom into believing that they were bathing in the warmth of Monster Hunter. But actually, before long, without recognizing these changes, the frogs are now being boiled and will become cooked and served in this monster fighter game. Oh, how foolish they must be. Poor frogs, unaware of change. I used to think that way too. I used to be annoying like this. But then I stopped being annoying and I changed my mind because I was wrong. The reality is, most of the player base going into Monster Hunter Wilds does not recognize the change. Yes, because most of them started in Monster Hunter World. That's where the bulk of the Monster Hunter player base is. They started in World. Is it so radical to say that perhaps if Monster Hunter World didn't make these changes in 5th gen, it would not have become the breakout hit that it has become? More recently, IGN released an interview with the dev team. In it, they discussed the global response for Monster Hunter World's success and how they want to listen more to the overseas fans going forward and study what isn't working for audiences. This is all in relation to Monster Hunter Wilds.
ワールドというかやっぱり海外のとのコミュニケーションがやっぱ取りやすくなってきたっていうのと、そこの意見を聞けるようになってきた体制になってきたっていうのと、僕たち開発自体もそこに、すごくコミュニケーションを取ることの意識が高まってたっていうのもあって、やっぱりいろんな話意見を海外の意見ももらって、それが意見がどこに問題があるのかみたいなをやっぱり考えるっていうことの習慣っていうのはすごくワールドでついたなとも思いますし、それはでもそもそもで言うともう別に海外関係ない話で、ユーザーの方が言ってることを噛み砕いて、やらないといけないことは何なのか、やらなくていいことじゃなくて伝わってないところは何なのかっていうのをしっかり考えていくっていうところがより身につきましたし、それがこのワイルズで生かされている部分も多々あります。徳田がよく言うモンスターハンターで当たり前だったことを見直した理由っていうのもそこにありますし、なのでそういう、環境がと意識、僕たちの意識っていうのもそうなってきたっていうところもすごく大きいと思います。
Ryozo quotes Tokuda and he says, "We have to reconsider what's taken as a given in Monster Hunter." I think just like the interview that Rurikhan conducted, it's very easy to take this as a red flag. You can easily read this as, oh, we want to dumb the game down for the casual overseas audiences. It's very easy to look past any of the clear artistic visions crafting this game and see it only as a corporate cash grab to make money. Frankly, I think there's an abundance of evidence as to what a stripped down cash grab version of Monster Hunter looks like, and it certainly isn't Monster Hunter Wilds. Tokuda's history of Monster Hunter is interesting because he did not help develop the original game like the other main leads in the development team. He discusses this in a lecture that I'll link below just to prove it. Rather, Tokuda first witnessed Monster Hunter when he saw the original beta trailer for Monster Hunter 1. From there, he had his own personal understanding of what Monster Hunter was, what it was going to be, what kind of game it was, and that was divorced from any actual gameplay loop or system that made Monster Hunter what it was because he hadn't played it yet. But he had created his own framework of what Monster Hunter was in his head, and I'm sure his interpretation of Monster Hunter based on that trailer looks quite different than what Monster Hunter 1 ultimately was. Truly, we don't know exactly what he envisioned in 2003 when he saw that trailer, but we can, however, look at the two Monster Hunter games that he's since directed, Monster Hunter World and now Monster Hunter Wilds. We can easily theorize that these games are probably naturally closer to that initial vision of what Monster Hunter was. Tokuda was not there when Monster Hunter was created, and I think that's the reason why he's done so much to twist it and change it. Tokuda's vision is not inherently the Monster Hunter we're familiar with, but I truly believe that we need to welcome these changes, and like he said, we should reconsider what's taken as a given in Monster Hunter. I have a message for those who feel that the disgusting changes to the Precious Monster Hunter is such a bad thing, and this is coming from someone that once thought the same as you. I believe it is in fact you, the old school fan, that are the boiling frogs. I believe that you became too comfortable in the systematic mess that is Monster Hunter, and before long, Monster Hunter has become a mountain of systems and admin work that makes the game increasingly unapproachable. In other words, Monster Hunter is too complicated. I'm about to list a number of systems, and while I don't necessarily see any of these systems I'm about to list as being inherently terrible, and I also don't think all these systems should just be removed, rather, I want to point out the accumulated mass of these systems has led Monster Hunter into being overly complicated. I believe this is the core of what Tokuda wants to reinvent. This is Monster Hunter's most immediate issue. It's that it's too much. I first want to recommend players to try and boot up a new save file in Monster Hunter World or Monster Hunter Rise and witness the sheer number of pop-ups. Half of them are tutorials, the other ones are saying, hey, skip straight to the G rank. Monster Hunter Wilds is not going to be safe from this either. The game is screaming at you to understand it and its systems. It's a lot. Old school players grieve that preparation before a hunt is dead in the newer titles because of the way the camps work now. And somehow they also forget that the immense number of menus that must be understood and managed before the quest back at base camp is still needed every single time. That's still preparation, and this is what Tokuda is talking about with busy work. This is what he's trying to cut down. The game throws pop-ups at you every time you return from a quest. Oh, your talismans have been melded. Oh, your daily bounties are completed. Oh, you can deliver items to fulfill a request. Oh, you can talk to this ecologist and he can update your hunting notes. Oh, the Argosy is here. You don't want to miss your chance to trade with the Argosy. Oh, and there's also a sale going on and you can purchase items while you can. Oh, your farm has items that are ready to be harvested, and oh, there's a person who wants to talk to you and they're gonna yap on about something honestly irrelevant. And I want to believe that these are normal in an MMO game, but how many of them are necessary for Monster Hunter and for the gameplay loop of Monster Hunter? Upgrading armor requires you to dump dozens of armor spheres you gain after each quest, which are in of itself just an arbitrary system that requires regular upkeep. Monster Hunter has two separate cooking systems, one to cook meat for eating later, and one to cook a meal to eat immediately. The first of which is a mini-game, and the other is a whole menu system in of itself. You have to know which ingredients will give you the best results. It's not surprising that some players will just go with a recommended meal option or just click whatever because they just don't want to bother with it. It's funny how it's taken until Monster Hunter Wilds to consolidate these cooking systems into one and finally allow the player to do both of these options anywhere. Even the systems to withdraw or deposit items to your item pouch keeps changing every title since Monster Hunter World, and I don't believe any of them have ever been as simple as the one from the first game that we had for the first 4 generations. Every consumable item is practically a system in of itself. There seems to be like 3 different items that perform the same function for each function. It's no surprise that Monster Hunter World made whetstones, another system in of itself, infinite use, as well as pickaxes and nets. They're also infinite use because that's yet another system. It's no surprise they took out the Book of Combo system because the combination system was already very complicated. I'm not trying to say it's bad to have 3 different items that perform the same function. I think that it's okay to have options, but when you combine this with everything else, it's just non-stop things and systems. It's so complicated to even get started on this game. I could keep on listing systems, but I think it's pretty clear that they've just accumulated layer upon layer until you've gotten this like technical mess. Monster Hunter 1 was in comparison a lot simpler. It still was complex to a degree, but the amount of systems and loops were way less. You couldn't even upgrade your armor in that game. In my opinion, Monster Hunter's gameplay should be relatively simple. And I'm not talking like, oh, the combat should be simple. No, I think it comes down to everything. Every single action that the player takes. There should be less menus and more direct interactions. Like there should be more of when you just go up to something, you press the right button at the right time, and then the right interaction happens rather than dealing with menus. Right now, a lot of the interactions, especially when you're not on a quest, are redundant, but are usually mandatory busy work. And I'm sure for series veteran fans, these things don't seem like issues. And that's because we've been frogs. We've been boiled in these systems for so long, we just don't notice it anymore. But a new player notices, and this is the one thing keeping a lot of players from even touching Monster Hunter. I think we have to stop thinking like we're elites. Oh, if you don't get Monster Hunter, then it's not for you. Maybe we should start to realize, okay, maybe there's actually a problem to this. Maybe this is too much. Can we still have the hunting simulation without all of this? And in my opinion, yes, I believe Monster Hunter still needs refining. Even Monster Hunter Wilds still has an overabundance of menu navigation and busy work. Just to even play with your friends. Have you seen what it takes to play with, like, to have like a closed lobby and play with your friends online? There's so many different steps and loops you gotta go through. It's too much. At the end of the day though, there are some good steps in the right direction. Monster Hunter Wilds is experimenting with moving a lot of the player's action and reaction inputs out on the quest instead of solely in menus in the hub. I think this is the right direction. Of course, Monster Hunter Wilds is not yet released. Obviously, when the game is out, we will be able to see the full extent of Tokuda's vision, the potentially good as well as any potential bad. No matter what, I want to make this clear, I believe that his vision is a bright future for Monster Hunter. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to fiercely debate and disagree with me in the comments, but thank you for commenting. I also want to thank everyone who's watched this video and the immense amount of support on my Patreon. I really want to thank you guys so much for all that support. It means so much to me. Again, there's too many people who are supporting me that I can't list you all anymore. It's like the list is like in the thousands of people. Like it's too difficult to keep up every single video, which is why I don't do it anymore. But I cannot thank you guys enough. It means so much to me. I did just release the instructions for multiple new monsters, a bunch of the Wilds monsters, as well as Volvidon, Nibblesnarf, and Shagru Magala. I've got many more on the way, so I can't wait to see more of that. Monster Hunter Wilds comes out next month. I cannot wait. I'll see you when the next trailer drops. Hopefully. Hopefully it's soon. Alright, thank you. Bye-bye.